Hello, and welcome back to Rongmar. In today's SPHE lesson, we're looking at climate change again, and today's world is to identify some of the effects of climate change, and to also identify some jobs that can help combat it. For quite a long time now, scientists have been warning us how climate change was going to affect people in the future. They're also identifying ways that it's affecting people in the world right now. Do you know some of the ways that people are being affected by climate change in other parts of the world? Pause the video and have a think. One way that climate change is affecting people's lives is through the increase in the amount of heat waves that are occurring. In 2018, there were two major heat waves in the UK, and Japan experienced its hottest ever heat wave. Tens of thousands of people were hospitalized within 1 week. So I love the sun more than the next guy, but heat waves are particularly dangerous, especially for older people or those who have medical conditions. People living in the cities and built-up areas are the worst affected by heat waves. Why do you think this is? Pause the video and have a think about that. If you remember from the last video, we talked about pollution. Well, cities and built-up areas have lots of cars, businesses and homes, which are producing a lot of polluting gases. During a heat wave, the pollution gets trapped closer to the ground where people are living and working. You might have heard of this before. It's called smog. Smog is really harmful, especially for people with medical conditions. And because there's so many people living in cities, there's often not enough ambulances to help all of the people who get ill during heat waves. Another way that climate change is affecting people's lives in the world now is through drought. Scientists have found that climate change is the most likely cause of a massive increase of drought in southern Australia. They also have evidence that a long period of drought in Syria was also caused by climate change. Drought and water shortages are now believed to be one of the causes of war and conflict in Syria. By 2011, somewhere between 2 and 3 million Syrians were badly affected by drought and the damage it had done to their farming and food supplies. So imagine this. You're one of these people in Syria. Your water supply is starting to run out, your crops that feed you are starting to fail, and your farms have to close. What do you think many of these people have to do? Pause the video and have a think about that. Left with no other choice, millions of Syrians in the drought areas, including many farmers and farm workers and their families, had to leave their homes. They travelled to the cities, where the only place they could stay was in camps, hoping that the government could possibly help them. But this only led to more problems because the cities and the governments couldn't give enough support to all the new people arriving. This led to even more problems. Can you think of any of the problems that might have occurred? Pause the video and have a little think about that. Another way that climate change is affecting people's lives these days is through coastal flooding. The sea levels are rising by about 3 or 4 millimeters a year because of climate change. Areas beside the coast, beside the sea, are worst affected by flooding because of these sea level rises. The marshlands, which are really important places for wildlife, will be the very first areas to be badly affected by new rising sea levels. But it's not just animals that'll suffer. In the UK, nearly 500,000 people live in coastal areas, and in Ireland, big towns and cities like Galway and Dublin are right by the sea. Unfortunately, it looks like it's actually too late for some nations. The tiny little island nation of Tuvalu, which is the 4th smallest nation in the whole world, is going to be the first to be swallowed up because of rising sea levels. The people of this island are going to have to leave everything that they know behind. Their home will be lost forever because of rising sea levels. But how on earth does climate change even make the sea levels rise? Pause the video and see if you can think of an answer for that. Well, as the global temperature increases and increases, the ice sheets and glaciers in Greenland and Antarctica start to melt. This meltwater flows into the oceans. The more water that enters the ocean, the higher the sea levels will rise. The final way that scientists think climate change might be affecting people's lives now is with the increase of extreme weather. We're seeing more and more wildfires and hurricanes and floods and winter storms, and scientists think that this is going to continue into the future. Now I know this all sounds very scary, and hopefully you're wondering, what can be done about it? Well, thankfully, there are lots of things that we can still do. Both adults and children have their part to play. Have a think of one thing that children could do and one thing that adults could do to slow down the speed of climate change. Pause the video and write down one answer for each. Maybe you're feeling inspired to go and change the world now. Or maybe you're feeling a little bit useless. You feel like there's not really much you can do. But luckily, as you get older and older, there's more and more that you can do to help slow down climate change. One thing that you could do is work in a green job. And no, that's not a job where you have to wear green all day. What do you think a green job might be? Pause the video and have a think. Well, a green job is a job that is specifically related to improving the environment, acting on climate change, and reducing waste. Can you think of any jobs that might be green? Let's take a look at a few green jobs and see if you fancy any of them. Do you love the outdoors? Do you love beaches? Do you like water? If you answered yes to these questions, you could become a hydrologist. As a hydrologist, it is your job to test the water and make sure that it's not extremely polluted. Sometimes you'll have to close down beaches and swimming areas if the water is not safe to be in. If that doesn't sound like you, how about this one? Do you like bad smells? Do you like being real bossy and telling people what to do? Are you very organized? If so, I've got the perfect job for you. Waste Management Officer. As a waste management officer, it's your job to make sure that companies are following the correct laws and rules for getting rid of waste. You're allowed to hand out fines, do inspections, and generally give out to anybody who's not taking care of the environment. No? That one not for you either? Okay, I get it. You're more of a people person. You like to be talking to people, meeting people, shouting at people sometimes. If so, I have the perfect job for you. Environmental campaigner. Usually, you'll work for a charity or an organization whose only purpose in life is to help the environment. Sometimes you'll organize protests or fundraisers to help raise awareness and funds for the environment. Now, if none of those three jobs suit you, you don't like mixing with people, you don't like smelly stuff, and you don't like water, then I really do have the perfect green job for you. Park Ranger. As a park ranger, you never have to worry about meeting too many people. You'll be out in the wilderness all by yourself most of the time. Your job is to look after huge chunks of protected land. You might have to fix a fence every now and again or chop down a tree, but other than that, your life is pretty peaceful. Of course, green jobs are only one way of helping with climate change. You don't have to take a green job to live a green life. Normal people in countries all around the world are reducing, reusing, and recycling all the time. And as long as everybody keeps doing those things, we'll be able to slow climate change and hopefully not lose any more nations like Tuvalu. That's all we have time for today. Until next time, take care.